Let's talk about the $15 an hour minimum wage a little bit. I know it's a good idea. I know it's a great idea, even though the Democrat nominee, Hillary Clinton, who's the presumptive nominee, not behind it. You know who is behind it? Here's a guy named Alan Simpson. Here's Alan Simpson.
What?
This is from Occupy Democrats. They put this meme together. Alan Simpson was a senator from Wyoming. He's the author of the book Right in the Old Gazoo. That's the name of his book. Right in the Old Gazoo. That's the name of the book. I haven't
That
read
kind
it.
of language, really.
It makes me want to pick it up. I bet it's full of lots of galops in the old gazookers. And anyway, so this guy's he was one of the guys who his big idea on how to balance the budget is you got to cut Social Security and Medicare a little bit. That's this guy. And he's for the $15 minimum wage. And why? I'm going to guess, he's been out of the Senate now since like the late 90s. So he hasn't had to like suck up to cash anymore, right? Doesn't have to go get donations. He's got all his money. He's at the end of his life. And now he's speaking freely. The guy who thought it was a good idea to cut Social Security and Medicare, this is what he has to say about the $15 an hour minimum wage.
What is your honest assessment then of the younger generation and what they need to do to prepare when they get older?
In their seriousness, they are consumers. And the government is telling them that everything will be all right if we grow the economy, and the way to do that is keep consuming. So as long as they're consuming, things will look great, but at some point, they don't have a savings account. They don't have an employer that they can count on to keep them in a health care plan or saving. In my day, boy, when a guy worked for Bud Webster Chevrolet in Cody, he was there for 50 years. Or if you worked for, the Burlington Railroad, I mean, you were there. Nowadays, there's no security for them. 401ks, half of them won't do it anymore. But there's no savings at all. And when they get to a savings, they see and the media, the ads.
So now normally most Republicans and Republican voters would say, well, that's your fault. That's your problem. You don't have a savings? Get some savings. You don't have that. But what he's doing is taking a macro view of our society and saying, wow, this is a systemic problem in our society. It isn't an individual problem. It isn't a handful of people here and there who don't have their act together. This is a systemic problem that seems to be happening to our society, not to individuals. This is happening to our society. But we've always been treating economic calamities in America as if they're happening individually. Hey, your job got outsourced. You should go get retrained for another one. Go back to instead of, hey, we're having our workers in America's jobs outsourced. What's our response to that? What it is now is nothing. So instead of having a societal response to it, we don't. We say it's up to you, the individual. And what he's saying right now is, no, this isn't. This is a societal problem. This is an individual problem. Why is this happening in our society, in our economy? What's wrong with our economy that this is happening? He's got more to say.
Wait.
Can
I just say something?
Sure.
Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy.
Wait till after. Wait till after.
But these ads, this isn't how to buy a Ford car. It's how to buy a Lexus or an Esplanade or whatever, a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 crate. And I thought, a lot of the people watching this are minorities and poor people. No wonder they're pissed off. They're saying, I couldn't buy one of those, but I like to watch the football game. It's a sad. I think the class warfare thing is going to get worse and worse. The income inequality worse and worse. This business of the minimum wage. Oh, you can't afford $15. Well, then don't publish your quarterly report saying you made $1.5 billion.
Bam! So that what he just said was, oh, we can't afford a $15 an hour minimum wage. Well, don't publish your quarterly report saying you just made billions of dollars, which is what McDonald's does. Which is what McDonald's does, and Pizza Hut and Burger King. They all publish their quarterly reports. They're making billions of dollars. And we can't afford to pay the people who generate that profit. And he's saying that's bull, because we all know you can. And right now, by the way, Robert, you're going to say something bad about him because he was one of the worst guys. He was one of the guys with an idea, hey, the way we balance the budget is cut the money from old people.
This is no different than Denny Hastert apologizing for molesting people in his 70s.
Because
This guy screwed America. He was one of the architects who deregulated and screwed America. And now he's talking common sense. Too little, too late. It's a deathbed confession. This guy should go to hell.
Okay, that's what Robert thinks. I say I'm glad to hear it. I agree. What you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's just that I'm just so happy to see a guy come out who's considered to be you can't question his conservative bona fides.
George H.W. Bush said to resign from the NRA. It does no good. Do it when you're in office.
You know what? That's a good point. Robert makes a good point. Yeah, you know what? This would have meant a lot more had you done it when you were in office. And he would say, well, it wasn't that bad then. We had just started trickling down, and now we've trickled down, and everybody's screwed.
Well, I agree with Robert. I like his passion about that. But this is rare. Unfortunately, most people who have had a political career like him wouldn't come out and say things like this at all. He's like the reverse Howard Dean in a way. He's like Howard Dean's gone the other way. He's been bought by the evil machine, and this guy's saying all this stuff. And like what he said about marketing expensive cars. It's because advertisers, they market to who has the money. And over more and more each year, people with money or the money's concentrated at the wealth into luxury goods and luxury items. That's why I feel shitty watching CNN, and I can't afford to buy an oil rig.
So there you go. I've said that about, and the people with the, if they get the $15 minimum wage, and, they're just going to have to get a machine to do their job at Burger King. Blah, 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 blah.
By the way, those jobs that used to last for 50 years, he's the guy who killed them.
Oh, by the way, good point. He's one of the guys who helped outsource all that stuff, right? He's probably certainly anti-union. He's a Republican. So he's got blood on his hands, and now he's having a deathbed conversion. But at least he's having one. Most people die being jerks.
It speaks to the system we have that prevents this kind of thought from being in the minds and on the tongues of people who are in charge, the leaders of the media and the leaders of the political class. Only people who have nothing to lose can talk like this, and that says a lot about how.
Well, you mean on the right?
Yeah.
And again, here's this guy's for the $15 minimum wage. We can't even get the lefty Hillary Clinton to get on board.
Well, I think when I read about the minimum wage, they came out about 2 years ago and they said it really should be $22 an hour.
Oh, to keeping up with when it was first implemented.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in real talk.
If we were really, worried about what a living wage is,
right.
It's still not $15
right.
an hour. And people are worried that, hey, and I keep hearing this, I can't, if I'm a small business owner, I'm not going to be able to survive.
Right.
If I have to pay this. And I'm thinking, I think, well, how about the person who's employed? How are they going to be able to survive?
How are they? That's a great point. Nobody ever says, but how are the people who are working for you going to survive? You're surviving. How are they going to survive? I say raise your prices. I'm going to guess raise your prices.
And you know what? If I'm a minimum wage earner, my money, my income goes right back into the economy. I have to put that money right back in the economy, unlike, the gazillionaires.
As Ashton Edelman taught us on this show, or he taught the CNBC guys, that's called the velocity of money. When you give money to working people, they don't put it in the bank. They don't put it in an offshore bank account. They don't put it in stock. They spend it in the economy. And that's what FDR understood. It was called a demand economy. And demand economy is you put money in the pockets of working people, and then they go out and demand products, and they buy stuff, and that boosts the economy. The Republican idea is you put a lot of money in the pockets of rich people, pockets that are already full of cash anyway, and somehow some of that will fall out of their pockets into you. That's going to trickle. Some of it's going to fall out. Oh, please, sir, just a trickle, sir, please. $15 minimum wage. It's the real deal. Feel the burn. I'm still feeling it.